Taconite dreams, the remaking of iron ore mining. Iron ore on the Mesabi Range has been produced since the 1890s. As a result, the Iron Range has formed a unique culture focused on their labor and the natural resources they supply. The region has created and focused their economy on the mining process and their ability to supply iron ore to the nation. However, this industry has caused great obstacles, disputes over labor, created large union involvement in the region, and created a tumultuous environment. These struggles were heightened through the Great Depression, and the Iron Range was struggling tremendously. With the outbreak of World War II, however, the Iron Range was kickstarted once more, supplying 70% of all iron ore products for the United States. The Iron Range became a vital part of the war effort, and extraction was at an all-time climax. This extraction produced a heavy toll on the long-term sustainability of these ranges and the cities they supported. With dwindling supplies of high-grade iron ore, the Iron Range focused on taconite mining. New policies, including the Taconite Amendment in 1964, were passed, reducing taxes on taconite mining, and the Iron Range established 3 additional mines, which transitioned the region into the modern era. With the findings of a large iron ore deposit by the Merritt family in 1890, iron ore was introduced as an economic factor for the region, and 2 years later they began shipping. With the additional establishment of the Vermilion Range and the Cuyuna Range, the population on the Iron Range had increased by over 20 times in just 30 years, primarily through immigrant populations. This immigration was established by 43 separate nationalities of migrants, who made up 95% of the mining workforce. These migrants faced long hours with low wages and a large risk of danger in multiple incidents where hundreds of lives were lost due to mining accidents. The largest incident being the Milford Mine incident, leaving 41 dead. The region struggled to maintain economic stability from iron ore mining and faced large strikes. The Mesabi Range alone experienced 2 large strikes in the early 1900s, once in 1907 and again in 1916. These disputes over wages and labor created large union involvement in the region and created a springboard of issues regarding workers' rights. Immigrants and all workers had to adjust to the struggles they faced in the mines, but also issues they faced in the region regarding discrimination, feuding between other immigrants, and a high cost of living, which created a struggling society brought forth from the economic impact of iron ore. In the 1930s, the Iron Range, along with most of the U.S. economy, suffered greatly from the Great Depression. However, the United States' involvement in World War II, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, was able to regrow their economy, providing 9,000 additional jobs for miners, due to an increased demand for iron ore for the war supply. This new demand for iron ore allowed the ranges to increase their yearly supply from 15 million tons to 33 million tons of iron ore. By 1940, the Mesabi Range alone was providing over 49 million tons of iron ore. These materials allowed the United States to produce over 1,300 naval ships, 100 merchant ships, 126,000 machine guns, 4,000 tanks, and 23,000. In 1945, at the end of World War II, the Iron Range had accounted for over 8,000 warships, 24,000 tanks, and 667,000 machine guns. This drastically changed the landscape and economics of the region and the entire state. Minnesota and the Iron Range needed to invent a new process of extraction due to a decreasing supply of high-grade iron ore. With the help of Dr. Edward W. Davis, a researcher at the University of Minnesota, a process of mining and processing taconite, a lower-grade iron ore once considered a waste rock found on the Iron Range. Raw taconite consists of 20% iron ore, which is then pulverized into a thin powder, which allows the materials inside to be collected by being hardened into pellets for iron ore off the range. Davis had devoted the last 40 years of his life to this process of mining and extraction. However, post-World War II, increased funds and resources were focused on creating a refined process on a large scale. This allowed Dr. Davis himself in 1951 to take a leave of absence from the U of M and start his employment with Reserve Mining Company, where he operated and implemented taconite mining, overseeing the transportation of taconite from extraction in the city of Babbitt to its transportation and processing in Silver Lake, Minnesota. While the Iron Range and the entire state of Minnesota recognized the need for a shift in the extraction of iron ore, the shift and development of technology took time to implement, caused many difficulties for the region. The process alone to form a usable product from these taconite pellets takes over 15 tons of clean water to process just 1 ton of concentrated product. And it would take more power and water to power this refinement station than the city of Duluth at the time. In addition, any company working on starting this process would have to create and build an entirely new town to sustain the 2,500 employees they would need to employ as companies move towards Lake Superior for its accessibility to water in high demand. The heavy investment for business and costs of this new process extol the tax on the industry, and despite efforts by Minnesota to reduce these effects, including the establishment of the Taconite Amendment of 1964, which ensured low taxation for taconite mining corporations, and was approved by 86% of Minnesota voters. Entering 1980, the declining steel industry, as well as the economic struggles, affected the working class on the Iron Range.
There's the taconite, a hard iron-bearing rock found in great abundance in Minnesota and also in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Canada. Not many years ago, everyone considered this rock as waste, just troublesome overburden that had to be blasted out to get at the ore. But mining men, assisted by the University of Minnesota Mines Experiment Station, are working out methods to convert taconite into high-grade ore. They hope to do it at a cost to compete with other ores. Much work has been done to process taconite, and there's still more experimenting going on all the time. The process of manufacturing high-grade ore from taconite sounds very simple. It consists of blasting and crushing the rock apart, treating it to separate the waste, and putting what is left back together again. But to do all that on a commercial scale takes lots of money and thousands of men. Just think what it would cost to build and run a commercial taconite plant. Pay many more workers, pay for power and machinery. Somebody has to go out on a limb to the tune of millions of dollars just to find out if it will work. Somebody has made the venture, the mining companies, with the result that taconite processing is no longer a rumor or a dream. It's a fact.
Taconite was seen as the future of mining on the Iron Range, but the economic struggles and impacts of implementing this new system had dire outcomes across the region. And during the 1980s, this economic struggle was heightened with large layoffs, automation of mines, and stalling mines, causing a dying economy to emerge on the Iron Range. More than 60% of the mining workforce lost their jobs, and even more were subjected to stalling mines, in which they would be employed to the mine, but the mine would temporarily close in order to cut costs, causing an even larger loss of income for the region. Of the taconite mines on the Iron Range before 1980, who have closed down, all have stalled for periods. The 3 major iron ore ranges bode better. And of the major mining ranges, Cuyuna, Mesabi, and Vermilion, only the Mesabi range still has taconite mining. Since 1980, the Iron Range has been steadily losing employment in the mining industry, and while there have been short periods of economic stability, a primary trend downward, particularly in the iron and steel mining industry, where over 100,000 jobs have been eliminated. While taconite served as a short-term solution to the degradation of the quantity of iron ore on the range and saved the mining economy post-World War II, the area never fully recovered from their own World War II contributions and continued to decline in economic opportunity. Taconite has allowed the range to exist and still extract from the area, and has turned the range into a state where they can still exist, but the same issues are being faced.